Wiradyuri Nation, Bernard Higgins, Jirmadalinya Bull, Wallan Bull, Balladar, Balladul, Wirajiki Beer, Injamali Jun, Nadi, Majigang, Madabu, Yandubu, Nuanua Bull, Megan D, Bala, Higgins Bull, Fort Bull, Clayton Bull, Richards Bull. So I just want to begin today by acknowledging the beautiful Welcome to Country that Arnie Shell performed for us this evening. I come before you tonight at TEDx, Wagga Wagga, a proud Wiradyuri man who has also been blessed to have a close friendship with Arnie Shell, and still, every time she performs a Welcome to Country, I am so appreciative and grateful. I am appreciative that our elders are still able to welcome people to our lands. I am grateful for all the strength of our elders and ancestors who have kept the culture alive, regardless of all the attempts to kill us and our culture. And that is the crux of what my talk is about: keeping culture alive and flourishing through Wiradyuri Nation building and language reclamation, using the skills I possess in animation and digital arts, and why I believe this is even more important now since the referendum on the voice to Parliament was unsuccessful. One of the most important aspects of keeping Wiradyuri and even all First Nations cultures alive and well is the reclamation of our language. I will forever be grateful for our elders and ancestors who kept our language alive. Their perseverance has led to me being able to begin my presentation here tonight in Wiradyuri language. Language and culture are intertwined for all people. Language is how we share our beliefs. We tell our stories in our language. We converse with each other, and we have words for things that we want to say to each other. For Wiradyuri people, we are storytellers. And elders and knowledge holders will tell stories to each of us about the world. There can be such a depth of meaning in a word. Yinjamara can be defined as doing things slowly, with respect for each other, to be gentle and polite to each other. This is the core belief of Wiradyuri culture, the belief of being respectful to each other, the lands and the rivers. This couldn't be explained if not for language. This is why it saddens me that I didn't begin my journey to learn my language until only the last few years, and that there's still many Wiradyuri people, including our elders, who have not been able to learn their language or been given opportunity to learn their language. But this sadness motivates me to do the work that I am doing. By building the Wiradyuri Nation, the hope is that in the generations to come, our people will be able to live their culture, speak their language, be Wiradyuri freely and from birth. The Wiradyuri Nation is like any other nation in the world. We have our own language, culture, customs, etc. So now to explain what nation building is alone could be an entire talk by itself, but Miriam Jorgensen describes it as the process by which a native nation enhances its own foundational capacity for effective self-governance and for self-determined community and economic development. But so why should we do this? Why is it important? The question we hear is, are we all not Australian? But we have a government with policies attempting to close the gap between the lives of Indigenous and non-Indigenous Australians, and these targets are still not being reached. I am passionate and truly believe that these can only be reached with true First Nations self-determination and input into our own lives. Throughout the lead up to the referendum on the voice to Parliament, and since its outcome, many First Nations people, such as myself, have been hearing and seeing many ignorant and racist comments. The ones that really stand out to me can be summarised as, we're all Australians, we all have the same opportunities, we are all treated equal. I only need to look at my own life and know this is not true at all. So I will share some truths about myself to try and explain why I am so passionate about Wiradyuri Nation building. The first closing the gap target is to close the gap between the life expectancies of Indigenous and non-Indigenous Australians. There has been some improvement, but we still currently live between 7 and 9 years less for non-Indigenous Australians. But do people truly understand the impact this has? The day I was born, three of my four grandparents were already dead. My mum died at 40, Her dad died when she was 5. Her mum died when she was 15. All 7 of her siblings are dead. Of the 12 siblings on my dad's side of the family, 9 are dead. Other closing the gap targets are about education. I've had 3 university graduations where no family attended. I had no family support attending university. The only Indigenous specific scholarship I received was for $3,000 a year for 4 years. Trust me, I would have much rather preferred my mother or other family members being alive. With all these barriers, I still get asked regularly, how are you one of the good ones? How are you able to go to university and work while others don't? My response is, it hasn't been easy, and I still struggle, and I still have barriers that I face, that I shouldn't have to. But why do we constantly keep blaming the victims for the results of the systemic abuse that we face? Would I have been as successful if I hadn't been born with the privilege of white skin? Would my education have gone as well if I hadn't escaped into books from bullying and having the guidance of my mother sharing the love of reading? Why do we still, as a society, measure success and our worth by a capitalist system and not inherently for just being human? But I'm here to suggest to you that if we build a strong Wiradyuri Nation, we won't need to be asked these questions. Our people will be self-determined and be able to flourish with the ability to practice language and culture and have input into their own health, education and societal needs. We'll simply be able to exist in our Wiradyuriness. Which now brings me to the part of my talk where I talk about what I can bring to Wiradyuri Nation building with my skills and knowledge in the animation and digital media space. I have graduated with a Bachelor of Animation and Visual Effects, as well as receiving Honours First Class with a Bachelor of Science. My Honours exegesis was co-designing an animal healthcare educational animation with a remote First Nations community. Currently, I am working with local elders and Wiradyuri community on animations and short films about Wiradyuri language and culture. Through this, I am contributing towards Wiradyuri Nation building by assisting with the availability of language and culture to our people, as well as some economic development for our people by collaborating with other Wiradyuri people in these projects. By having Wiradyuri people working on our own language and cultural projects, we can maintain our own cultural intellectual property. It's just not another part of First Nations culture that privileged non-Indigenous people can make a profit off us from. We can control what is made and what is shared with Wiradyuri people only or with the wider community. We can identify needs within our community that we can meet and try to address them ourselves, instead of waiting for a non-Indigenous person to decide that the issue is worth funding. We Wiradyuri and First Nations people are storytellers. We should be embracing animation and digital media to tell our stories and share them with our people, especially our young people who may be in a similar situation to what I was at a young age, with nobody around to share their culture and language with them. I don't have any kids of my own, but I still believe in the First Nations belief that we need to be thinking ahead for 7 generations. I hope when I die that I have been able to live long enough to leave a legacy that someday Wiradyuri people will not be able to learn it, but someday no Wiradyuri people will not be able to learn their language and culture. Australia may have voted no to giving us a voice, but we're going to just have to make sure you hear us anyway. Mandangu.